Assessment of language skills in the Joint Forces Language Test administered by the Italian Army Language School. The Joint Forces Language Test, referred to as the JFLT, as indicated in the Italian Defense General Staff publication Form 004, Directive for the Assessment and the Certification of Language Knowledge, is an examination to assess and certify the language competence of Italian defense personnel in the four skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, using scientific criteria that are as objective as possible according to the parameters set out in NATO STANAG 6001. Receptive skills, listening and reading, are assessed by means of multiple choice questions with 4 answer options according to increasing levels of difficulty, ranging from level 1 to level 4. Each level consists of 15 questions for a total of 60. The reading test has a maximum duration of 2 hours, while the listening test has a variable duration depending on the language to be assessed. The listening and reading tests are conducted through the use of software, and the analysis of the candidate's correct or incorrect answers is automated. The term item indicates the set of audio or text passage which the candidate listens to via headphones in the listening test or reads on the screen in the reading test, and the question referring to the passage itself, to which the candidate must give the correct answer. Each item has only one correct answer, to be chosen from 4 alternative options. As already mentioned, the listening test consists of 60 items and is divided into 4 sections, one for each level. Each section contains questions referring to specific subject categories. In particular, in the Level 1 section, we find the following categories: announcements, news from the media, audio messages, simple conversations between native speakers, simple directions. The duration of each Level 1 audio track is approximately 45 seconds. In Level 2, the categories are news from the media, conversations between native speakers, instructions or directions, narrations. The duration of each Level 2 audio track is approximately 60 seconds. The categories in Level 3 and 4 are briefings, professional debates or discussions, lectures or presentations, conversations between native speakers with a good level of education, interviews, news from the media. The duration of each Level 3 or Level 4 audio track is approximately 90 seconds. The reading test also consists of 60 items and is divided into 4 sections. In this case, the subject categories matched to the 4 levels are as follows. For Level 1, business ads, short notes or messages, instructions or directions, descriptions. The length of each text passage in Level 1 is approximately 100 words. For Level 2, notices, descriptions, narrations, news from the media, correspondence. The length of each piece of text at Level 2 is approximately 150 words. For Level 3 and Level 4, texts on professional topics, reports or articles on general topics, articles or texts extracted from essays or periodicals, formal correspondence or editorials. The length of each text passage at Level 3 is approximately 300 words, while a text passage at Level 4 may contain a maximum of 350 words. Productive skills, speaking and writing, are assessed by properly trained examiners. In particular, the speaking test, lasting a maximum of 20 minutes, is normally conducted by 2 examiners, who carry out the test through an organized interview, aimed at obtaining a rateable language sample based on the essential characteristics of each level. It is an interview that adapts and varies according to each candidate, allowing the examiner to identify the level within which the examinee is placed. The writing test, lasting a maximum of 2 hours, requires the candidate to produce the following compositions: short note or message, or short guided composition, consisting of a minimum of 50 to a maximum of 100 words. Short essay or report or formal correspondence, made up of a minimum of 150 words to a maximum of 250 words. Composition to be selected from a choice of 3 topics concerning professional, geopolitical, military, social, economic, or topical subjects of current importance, comprising a minimum of 250 to a maximum of 500 words. At the end of the examination, a numerical string consisting of 4 numbers, corresponding to the 4 skills assessed in the order listening, speaking, reading and writing, will certify the candidate's level of language proficiency. This is the so-called Standardized Language Profile, known by the acronym SLP. For example, an SLP 2, 3+, 2, 4 means Level 2 in listening, Level 3+ in speaking, Level 2 in reading, and Level 4 in writing. When administering the JFLT, examiners are employed exclusively to conduct and assess the speaking test, and to correct and rate the compositions produced by the candidate in the writing test. Let's analyze in detail how these 2 tests are conducted, focusing on how the examiners must carry out their assessment. Let's start with the speaking test. As already mentioned, the duration of the speaking test is approximately 20 minutes, and during this time, the examiners will have to organize an interview with the candidate divided into 2 parts. Each part will be conducted by only one of the 2 examiners, but this does not exclude that occasionally the other examiner may intervene to ask the candidate for clarification. During the first part, candidates will be asked to introduce themselves and talk about their professional and personal life. The questions to be asked of the candidates should concern their job, educational and cultural background, family, experiences abroad on military missions or possibly on leisure trips, their interests and future plans. It is important to ask the candidate questions in such a way that he or she can express himself or herself in the present, past, and future tense. It may also be useful to get the candidates to formulate hypotheses so that their familiarity with conditional sentences can be assessed. For the purpose of detecting the STANAG level that best identifies the examinee, at Level 1 and Level 2, it is necessary to test the candidate's ability to hold a conversation in typical everyday situations, discussing concrete topics such as work routines, his or her interests, or past journeys. For Levels 3 and 4, the candidate must instead demonstrate his or her command of the language when dealing with abstract topics concerning, for example, culture, economics, or geopolitics. Levels 3 and 4 also assess the candidate's ability to answer objections, clarify concepts, argue an opinion, advocate a point of view. The first part of the interview allows the examiners to come to an initial verdict on the candidate's level by assessing his or her abilities in terms of vocabulary, grammar, syntactic structures, pronunciation, sociolinguistic skills, and clarity of expression. This verdict must then be confirmed in the second part of the speaking test, which may consist of a role play, if the candidate is deemed to be Level 1 or 2, or a conversation on professional, geopolitical, economic, or social topics, if the candidate is deemed to be Level 3 or 4. The second part of the interview will be carried out by the examiner who acted as an observer during the first part. The choice of the role play or discussion topic card to be administered to the candidate should be made by the 2 examiners by mutual agreement. Normally, it is the examiner designated to conduct the second part of the interview who chooses a card from a folder provided for this purpose, ensuring that the colleague agrees with the decision made. The folder contains cards of each level. More precisely, Level 1 cards are marked by the letter A, Level 2 by the letter B, Level 3 by the letter C, and Level 4 by the letter D. At the end of the role play or professional discussion, it is recommended to reduce the tension of the examination by addressing the candidate with an informal and light-hearted question. For example, asking about his or her plans for the weekend. Once the candidate has left the room, the examiners can stop the audio recording. The speaking test is in fact recorded, and deliberate on the score to award. The score is expressed numerically according to a range from 0 to 100. In particular, each STANAG level is defined by a range consisting of a minimum and a maximum score. In addition to the four main levels, there are the so-called plus levels, which indicate that the candidate's language skills are somewhere between a certain level and the next. Let us therefore analyze the criteria used to assign the above-mentioned scores, starting with the lowest level. If candidates achieve level 0, the range of which is from 0 to 12, this means that they have failed the examination, as they have no knowledge of the language being tested. If their knowledge of the language is limited to a few commonly used sentences, which they have memorized, but of whose structure they are not fully aware, they can be awarded a level 0+, the range of which is from 13 to 17. Level 1 corresponds to a score ranging from a minimum of 18 points to a maximum of 35 points. In order to achieve this level, the candidate must be able, both in the initial introduction and in the role play, to communicate at an elementary level in situational contexts of everyday life, formulating simple questions and responding consistently, albeit imprecisely. On the other hand, the candidate can obtain a level 1+ with a score ranging from 36 to 42 points if he or she is able to use the past tense and to create sentences that are somewhat longer and more complex than those in common use. Level 2 corresponds to a score ranging from a minimum of 43 points to a maximum of 60 points. To achieve this level, the candidate must be able to express himself or herself in the past, present, and future tense, describe people, places, and things, give instructions and directions. On the other hand, the candidate can obtain a level 2+ with a score ranging from 61 to 67 points if he or she is able to formulate sentences longer than a short paragraph, talk to some extent about abstract topics, make assumptions, and advocate his or her opinions, although not at a professional level. Level 3 corresponds to a score ranging from a minimum of 68 points to a maximum of 85 points. To achieve this level, candidates must demonstrate that they can handle conversations on professional topics effectively and promptly, although they may make some grammatical, terminological, or pronunciation errors from time to time. They are also able to produce well-elaborated speeches to analyze situations, support opinions, or make hypotheses by using conditional sentences correctly. On the other hand, candidates can achieve level 3+ with a score ranging from 86 to 92 points if they are also able to adapt their linguistic register to the communicative situational context, give advice or persuade their interlocutors, formulate hypotheses in sophisticated discourse with little hesitation. Level 4 corresponds to a score ranging from a minimum of 93 points to a maximum of 100 points. To achieve this level, candidates must be able to speak fluently and accurately, demonstrating they are expert connoisseurs of the language and have mastered its nuances. In addition, without particular effort, they should be able to move from one topic to another, to sustain their positions at length, arguing them effectively, and to adapt the linguistic register and tone of discourse to the situation. Pronunciation is precise, although not that of a native speaker. Now, let's see how to assess the writing test. As already mentioned, candidates must produce the three compositions of increasing difficulty. The first composition, consisting of a short note or message or a short guided essay, allows the candidate to achieve a level 1 if done satisfactorily. The second composition, consisting of a short essay, report, or formal letter, allows the candidate to achieve level 2. Finally, the third composition, consisting of an essay on a professional, geopolitical, military, social, economic, or topical subject, allows the candidate to achieve level 3 or level 4. Candidates may decide to do only the first composition if they aim to achieve level 1. They may also decide to do the first two compositions if they aspire to level 2. If their goal is to reach level 3 or level 4, they must do all three compositions. If a candidate did the first and third compositions, but left out the second, the third composition would not be rateable, and therefore the candidate could be awarded neither level 2 nor level 3. The plus levels are also contemplated in the writing assessment. The score ranges to be used in the writing test are identical to those for the speaking test. To be awarded a plus level, candidates must have satisfactorily completed one composition and almost satisfactorily completed the next. For example, to be awarded level 1 plus, the candidate must produce the first two compositions, satisfactorily completing the first but not the second. However, the second composition, although not enabling the candidate to reach level 2, still manages to show that the candidate is able, for example, to use verbs in the past tense or to connect the sentences in a consistent but not entirely precise manner, which is why level 1 plus can be awarded. Let's look in detail at the descriptors provided by NATO STANAG 6001 with regard to the assessment of compositions from level 0 to level 4. Level 0 should be awarded if the candidate has no ability to produce texts, while a level 0 plus implies that the candidate is able to fill out registration forms with personal data, write frequent expressions, a few short memorized sentences, or lists of common items used in everyday life. Level 1 indicates that the candidate is able to write short personal letters, postcards, notes, invitations, and other concise texts to meet immediate personal needs. However, his or her written production is so imprecise that it can only be understood by native speakers used to interacting with foreigners. Level 1 plus, on the other hand, should be awarded to candidates who are able to express themselves in the past tense, albeit in a rather imprecise and limited manner. In addition, Level 1 plus candidates are able to deal with topics related to basic needs, such as organizing accommodation, meals, transport, shopping, travel planning, and simple information related to their family or work environment. Level 2 is awarded if candidates are able to formulate texts comprehensible even to native speakers not used to interacting with foreigners, in which they describe concrete facts, people, places, and things. They can also produce narrations and describe present, past, and future activities in complete but simple paragraphs. They are able to draft documents such as memoranda, short reports, and correspondence on everyday topics, but they have not yet fully mastered language structures at advanced level. Level 2 plus indicates that the candidate is able to write relatively coherent documents on not only practical but also social and professional topics. In elaborating complex topics, the candidate can convey abstract concepts comprehensively, although they are often formulated in a way that is not entirely precise and consistent. Level 3 identifies a candidate who can easily produce texts to argue, analyze, hypothesize, explain comprehensively. When elaborating on complex topics, the Level 3 candidate is able to convey abstract concepts, for example of economics, science, culture, technology, or relevant to his or her professional field. Control of structure, vocabulary, spelling and punctuation are adequate to deliver the message accurately. Errors are occasional, do not interfere with comprehension of the text, and rarely disturb the native reader. Level 3 plus is avoided if the candidate can use the written language to create professional documents of considerable length. In his or her texts, he or she can support decisions made, advocate official policies, and produce elaborate and analytical arguments. The candidate often shows written production skills capable of persuading the reader, although at times he or she may reveal some inconsistencies. Despite stylistic limitations, the candidate is able to express many shades of meaning and also to use humor. Level 4 is avoided if candidates are able to create formal texts and essays using syntactically and conceptually complex structures in an accurate and precise manner. They can handle nuances of meaning and use prose stylistically appropriate to various contexts. They can write persuasive texts and elaborate abstract concepts. The topics developed may relate to fields such as economics, culture, science, technology, and other professional areas. To conclude, here are a few recommendations for examiners to help assess production skills as accurately as possible. Let's start with the oral examination. A properly conducted speaking test should aim at obtaining rateable speech samples from the candidate. For this to happen, it is necessary for the examination to include a warm-up phase for the candidate to put him or her at ease. To this end, examiners should begin the test by greeting the candidate and speaking in a not too formal manner at a normal speaking speed. The warm-up should aim to establish a professional and at the same time friendly relationship in order to break down any psychological barriers and allow the candidate to express himself or herself at his or her best. In the warm-up phase, the examiners begin to assess the candidate's language proficiency level by paying attention to how well he or she is able to speak and interact. It is the examiner's task to gradually increase, or if necessary decrease, the level of complexity of the dialogue in order to explore what content and what language functions the candidate is able to handle. During the dialogue, the examiner should take care not to speak too much and not to interrupt the candidate unless strictly necessary. In addition, formulated questions should not involve telegraphic responses from the candidate. At the end of the introduction, the examiners should have enough evidence to be able to hypothesize which STANAG level best identifies the candidate, and, on the basis of this hypothesis, choose the role play or discussion topic to be used for the second part of the speaking test. It is worth repeating that, at the end of the second part, it is a good idea to ask the candidate a final question in a light tone before dismissing him or her. Finally, examiners should avoid giving the candidate feedback on the outcome of the test. When rating the candidate's compositions, the examiner should focus on the following elements: clarity and coherence of the text, grammatical and spelling accuracy, appropriateness of style, adherence of the text to the topic. Each of the two examiners should rate the compositions on their own, and only then compare their own scores with those given by their colleague. If the scores awarded are within the range of the same STANAG level, they should be entered in the exam report without modification. If the STANAG levels diverge, it is advisable to re-examine the compositions and reconsider the assessment. The Italian Army Language School provides the training for teaching staff who are also to be employed on the JFLT examination boards. A number of examiners are duly trained both to participate in examination boards and to create the assessment material used in the 4 JFLT tests. To achieve the latter, the school relies on the Bureau for International Language Coordination, known by the acronym BILC, a NATO body that aims to promote the standardization of language training and language testing in member countries. The specialization course in testing is called the Language Testing Seminar and comprises two phases. The first phase takes place online using a learning management system platform. During this phase, course participants are required to study specialized material on testing and carry out a series of preparatory activities for the second phase. The second phase of the language testing seminar lasts 2 weeks and takes place in the classrooms of the Partner Language Training Center Europe at the George C. Marshall European Center for Security Studies in Garmisch-Partenkirchen, Germany. In this second phase, there are various theoretical and practical activities focusing on the assessment of the four language skills, including mock exams under the guidance and supervision of experienced facilitators. If participants complete the course successfully, they receive BILC accreditation as language testing experts eligible to be employed in the development and administration of language tests based on the descriptors of NATO STANAG 6001. It is obviously in the interest of the Italian Army Language School to give its teachers the opportunity to participate in the language testing seminar in order to increase its staff of expert examiners. Some of these examiners will be part of the Joint Forces Committee that periodically develops, moderates, and approves the reading and the listening items used in common by the four single services of the Italian Armed Forces, namely the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Carabinieri. Watching this video is the first step that the Italian Army Language School asks the teacher to take if he or she is willing to be employed for assessment purposes on JFLT boards. When starting their new employment as members of examining boards, the aspiring testers will be assisted by experienced examiners, from whom they will have an opportunity to learn further aspects of NATO STANAG 6001 and testing in general. The Quality Control Agency of the Italian Army Language School thanks you for your attention and remains at your disposal for any further clarification.